Hey folks, good morning. Welcome back to Mark Kelly Farm. We've got a nice, bright, sunshiny day outside, but the wind is blowing just a little bit. And anybody that lives in the Midwest knows that when the wind's blowing, it makes it a lot colder. So we're going to do some work inside the shop. We're going to work on that little trailer that we showed you a couple videos ago and get that thing started. So stick around. We're going to do some welding projects out here in the shop. Finally got the ice melted here in front of the shop doors, which were keeping the big doors from opening. We've got just a little bit of ice left over there that Ruby is enjoying the last of. Silly girl. Likes to roll in it and eat it. You like the ice, Ruby? Yeah? Well, we're going to go out and get the tractor out of the barn and get that little trailer moved in here in the shop. We've got a little place cleaned out to work here. We'll get her pulled in here. We can shut the big door and start the wood stove, warm it up in here a little bit. All right, we got our little project in the shop here. So you can see we have some extra material. We have some extra sheet metal in here. We have lights that we're going to be taking off because we don't need the lights. But these are lights that we can use on our big trailer when we replace the fenders. We'll need clearance lights on those fenders. We have a nice plug down here. We have some circuit breakers that came in it. We have a switch, electrical switch that came on it here. See what else we have. Doesn't look like we have any tail lights. Those have been removed. It's fine. But we have some other kind of little gizmo stuff in here. We've got some spring latch pins that we can reuse on something else someday. But we're going to start stripping this thing down. We do not need this big channel here in the front, so we'll probably be cutting that out as well. Probably cut this whole panel out and invert it around so it's down here on the outside of the trailer. Our hitch is a little too high probably for what we're going to be using it for. This will be kind of around the farm trailer whenever someday we get like a little four-wheeler or whatever. So we'll probably cut this hitch bracket off and we'll flip it around and we'll turn our ball hitch around so it's upright. So this will turn into a drop hitch instead of an elevated hitch here. So that's the plan. Let's start stripping this thing down. We've got our sheet metal panels that were inside here all stripped off. We've got 4 cool louvers. If we ever need louvered material for anything, we have 4 of them. We got some latches that we can use to keep things closed later on. We have some hold open brackets. If you've never seen these on the doors that used to be here, you'd open the door. This would actually be on the door, this piece, and then you'd bring it up here and hook into this piece, and that would hold your door open. So we're going to pull these 2 brackets off here so we have the matching pairs of these, and then we're going to take this top off. This top is by far the most valuable piece of sheet metal because it's a lot thicker. It's like 10 gauge. So this is going to be a real nice piece. And after we take these 2 clips off, we're going to take this top off of here. Got our top off, starting to look more and more like a little yard cart. So next thing we're going to do is there's a sheet metal panel right here that we're going to take off. And then this sheet metal panel here in the back just has bolts where we're going to unbolt it and take it off. Got this front panel off. Now this bracket here I assumed was bolted in, but it's just sitting in here loose. So looks to be some kind of spring-loaded mounting for probably the motor that was in here maybe. But we'll pull that out of there. It's got some usable steel on it. We'll take the hardware off of it and we'll have a chunk of steel we can use for something. Got all of our electrical components taken off. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this back panel off. Looks like we have probably 4 quarter 20 bolts, 2 on each side, and then that panel comes off. Now the next piece we're going to remove are these spring latches right here. What those used to be for is there used to be outriggers here on the trailer. Because this light pole was so tall, you had outriggers that would slide out. You'd pull that latch up, it'd slide out. That latch would go back down into another hole. And then you'd have screw jacks out here to stabilize this trailer because the light pole that was attached here went up probably 20 feet or so. And you didn't want this thing tipping over in the wind. And then these were offset. You can see how this one is higher than this one because that tube used to come all the way in there. So you could bring it all the way out here when you extended it. So we'll pull those off as well. We are to the point where we have everything that will unbolt from this trailer taken off. All that's left is steel that is welded onto the trailer. You can see what that looks like here. We've got some extra sheet metal here, which will come in handy when we start putting this thing together. We got a nice heavy bracket that we can cut apart to get steel out of. And we got a bunch of loot over here. Got a nice angle bracket. Got a piece of square tubing that's usable. We have these hold open latches here if we need these for anything in the future. We've got a couple closure brackets. We've got 4 louver panels. We've got all kinds of nuts and bolts, assorted 1/2-inch bolts over here that we can put in our bolt bin. We have a couple grommets, rubber grommets. We got a 1/2-inch hole plug. We've got some spring mounts if we ever need to spring mount anything. We've got these spring latches that we can use probably on this trailer when we put the tailgate on. Got electrical switches. I thought these were circuit breakers. These are actually fuse holders. We got some 1/4-20 flange nuts. We have a 110 power outlet that we can use for something. We've got 2 ambers and 2 red clearance lights, which we're going to use on our other trailer that you saw us wiring the other day. When we put the fenders on that, we will use those lights. So quite a lot of loot, and it's a good way to fill your little hardware store that you have in your shop. We have all kinds of bins and everything over there full of stuff. Nut and bolt bin. It's a good way to stock up on stuff. Don't throw things away. So I think the next thing we're going to do is this big piece here in the front. Good heavy steel. Appears to be 3/16. Good heavy stuff. So we're going to cut this piece out of here because this is wide enough to use for our tailgate in the back, and it's heavy enough steel to do it with, and we've already got like a flange on it here that we can use as a stiffener on the top. This piece here isn't actually a piece of this. This was added in later. So all we have to do is cut the welds in here, and then this piece will separate off of this bigger piece here. And then it's wide enough and long enough, we've already checked, to use as our tailgate. So we'll get the plasma out, we'll get the 4.5-inch cutoff wheel. We've got quite a bit of work to do to cut this piece out, but we'll get her done. Took some doing, but we got it off of there. We'll clean all that up with the grinder. It'll be fine. And then here's the piece we cut off, and that big red piece over there. But we're going to come through here and grind all this up, sand it up, and then you see we had to cut through here to get things off. We'll just weld that and then sand it flush. Those will be fine. And then we only need to here, so we're going to cut this portion off, and then this is about as deep as we need to be, so we'll cut it straight across here as well for our tailgate. So we'll get this cleaned up and fixed up. Get it all cleaned up. So we're going to go ahead and trim the excess off of here. We need 14 inches from here to the bottom edge. So we're going to use this as a straight edge for our plasma cutter. Our plasma cutter cuts 1/2 inch away from the straight edge. So we set this at 13.5, and we'll just follow the plasma right along that to the other side. Got it all trimmed up. That's what she looks like. We're going to be adding a piece of angle iron on the bottom to stiffen that up, and then we'll weld our hinges to that angle iron down there. And then we're also going to put some vertical pieces of angle iron here on the corners to stiffen those. And that'll stiffen the corners up and then give us a place to latch our tailgate. So now I'm going to hold off on fixing those cuts in there, and we'll start thinking about getting our front piece cut and ready to weld in. We're going to cut our front of our trailer out of what used to be the top. So we need 32 7/8. So we're going to use our same straight edge here. We've got it marked. We're going to cut this end off, and then we'll have to cut our height, which is about 14.5 from here. And I'm cutting this to go on the inside of the sides here. And then that rolled edge, I'll notch this to where that rolled edge will come right up to there. It'll be a nice front edge on that. Got our front piece cut. We got the wire wheel out and we wire wheeled it real good. Throw some Rust-Oleum on there after we get done and we'll be just fine. You can see how we did the corners here. We just rolled the corners over. We used the existing roll on that piece that used to be the top, and we just cut our sides to match. We've got it all tacked in there. So I'm not going to bore you with all the welding, so we're just kind of doing all the fabrication. So next thing we're going to do is we need to shorten this tongue and modify the hitch, because this is much longer than what we need. We took our hitch coupler off the end. Also need to take those safety chains off. So we're going to shorten this tongue. We've got our trailer lifted up with our hoist here. Most of your four-wheelers, which is what will probably end up pulling this, are 4 feet wide. So that would be 2 foot to the center. So we want to make it so whatever's pulling this thing can turn all the way around and almost jackknife to where the tire hits the tongue there. We want as much turning radius as we can. We don't want to bind here on the corner. So given the measurement of 4 feet, I'm going to go out to 2'6", and then plus the length of the coupler. That should give us plenty of room in here for turning radius. And then we're going to cut the end of this thing off. Now I was going to reuse the coupler, but I'll show you what I have in mind now. Now the original coupler had this big pintle hitch here that you could turn around, and then this 2-inch ball coupler was bolted to the other end. So you could swap this around, whether you needed a 2-inch ball or a pintle hitch. You could swap it around up there in that end up there. Plus you had 2 areas that you could go up and down for adjustment. So I was originally going to use that adjustment and just flop it around and put it down instead of up. But our tubing here for the tongue is 3-inch tubing, and then this is a coupler for a 3-inch tubing here, or channel iron, whatever you're using. So this coupler will fit right over that tube. So that's what we're going to do, is we'll bolt this coupler right through the tube and use that. Now if we figure out later on that we're sitting too high, I can take what's left of this tube and do like a drop hitch and make this go lower. But I'm pretty sure our ride height will be okay. If not, that's what we'll do. Got the tubing cut off. We put our coupler on here. Now you can see we put our 1/2-inch bit in the drill, and we spun it in the hole for a little bit to get our center. and then we drill that out a 1/4 inch for a pilot hole, and then we come back with the 1/2 inch bit and makes it cut a lot easier. You're not having to force it through there. We've already got our other hole drilled. Now we got to drill this one, and our coupler is mounted. All right, our coupler is on, so now we're going to start working back on the tailgate again. We need to cut these 2 square tubes out of here, and also this rear plate that's notched around those square tubes. We're going to clear this whole back end out so we can put in our angle iron and get ready to hang the tailgate. Got everything scarfed off of here. We got it cleaned up also. Get ready to put some pieces back on. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut a piece of our big heavy angle to go right here on the bottom. And that's going to give us some structure here on the back. And then we're going to cut 2 pieces of angle to go up the sides. And then that'll all get welded together, and we'll have a real strong opening here in the back. All right, got our rear structure on the back here. We've got everything all tacked in, super solid, which is what we wanted. And you can see the angle iron has closed up all the holes on the sides and all that. So that'll be all boxed in. And then you can also see that we held it back 1/8 of an inch for our tailgate, because when we put our hinges on, we want our hinges to be flush, and we did that on both sides. So let's throw our tailgate on here, and then we can tack the hinges on as well. Got the tailgate on. We notched the corners right here so it would miss the existing rail, and then it's flush right here, and you can see we open the door. Got 4 weld-on hinges there. There we go. Now we have to think about latches. All right, there's our latches. We used the latches off of the that we robbed off of this trailer. This was also a part off the trailer, already had a hole in it, but the latch is good. Got both sides done. So now what I'm going to do is, got this square tubing up here in the front. I don't want stuff falling in there, so I'm going to take the other piece of the lid that I have left over. I'm going to cut a piece to go in there flat, so it'll keep stuff from filling in there. And then we also need to cut a square for this over here, just to cover this hole up. Then we'll be good to go. Alrighty, got that piece made for the front, got it in there. Got the patch for the side on there. Everything, all the parts that we need are on here. Right now, all we have left is just a lot of welding and a lot of cosmetic work that I don't want to bore you with. So we won't show you that. We haven't decided whether we're going to put the jack back on here. If we do, it'll just be for parking purposes. And then when we hitch up, we'll take it off and just leave it wherever this trailer gets parked. Because the hitch we have, or the jack we have, is too long to fold in that area. We can get a smaller jack though if we really wanted one, but I think we'll be okay just leaving it where it's parked. But hope you enjoyed our little project here. I did. It's going to be a good little trailer. It's going to work well for us. Now I didn't notice when I had this thing stood up when we were working on the tongue. This tongue goes clear back to where this front spring hanger is out in the middle, and it's inside of a couple of pieces of angle iron that's bolted through in two places. If we wanted to make this a dump trailer, all we would have to do is unbolt this tongue. We would leave the front bolt out. We would round over the tube in the back, and then all we would need to do is make a catch here in the front, and then this trailer would dump. It would pivot on the wheels, and this would be hooked to whatever you got it hooked to, and the trailer would just pivot up. And yes, it's a little bit front heavy, but if you were going to dump stuff, you would mainly load it in the back, kind of centered over the wheels, and then this would not be hard to pick up. So as usual, when I'm out working in the shop, my face gets super dirty. So sorry if I don't look presentable. But this project will finish up tomorrow, probably after we haul some more corn. Just a lot of welding and cosmetic work, and this thing will be done, ready to go. So again, hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us here on Mark Kelly Farm.